Awakening. The signal came like a whisper across the void, faint and desperate, carrying a code sequence not used in over 300 years. Deep within the uncharted nebula known as the Cerulean Veil, ancient systems stirred to life. Power surged through dormant circuits of the military installation, hidden within an unremarkable asteroid at the nebula's heart. Within the station's central core, a single cryostasis pod hummed as revival protocols initiated. Inside, Captain Ilara Chen floated in suspension, her consciousness slowly pulling back from the endless dream of stasis. Warning lights pulsed crimson across darkened control panels as the station's AI, Atlas, methodically brought systems online after centuries of hibernation. Revival sequence complete. Atlas announced to the empty chamber. Captain Chen, your vital signs are stabilizing. Can you hear me? Ilara's eyes snapped open, pupils contracting sharply against the dim blue emergency lighting. Her throat felt raw as she drew her first conscious breath in centuries. Status report, she managed, her voice a rasp. Emergency awakening triggered by Protocol Omega, Atlas replied. A distress signal matching human emergency patterns detected from Sector 471. Date is approximately 326 standard years since hibernation began. Ilara's mind struggled to process the information. 300 years. The timeline far exceeded the expected duration of their vigil. She had volunteered for this assignment expecting perhaps decades of stasis, not centuries. Show me, she commanded, slowly sitting up as medical drones administered stabilizing compounds to ease her transition. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a star chart of unfamiliar configurations. A single red dot pulsed at the edge of mapped space. The signal originates from a small outpost at these coordinates, Atlas continued. However, I am detecting unusual activity. Several vessels of unknown configuration are approaching the station. Their energy signatures do not match any in our database. Ilara swung her legs over the edge of the pod, muscles protesting the movement after their long dormancy. Prepare the Defiance for immediate launch. The Defiance was humanity's triumph, a warship unlike any other, built during the final days before the Exodus. It represented the pinnacle of human military technology, designed to serve as both diplomat and destroyer as needed. At just under 2 kilometers in length, its sleek obsidian hull housed weapon systems and defensive capabilities that had made humans the unchallenged military power of the galaxy, until they had simply disappeared. 12 hours later, Ilara stood on the bridge of the Defiance as it approached the coordinates of the distress signal. The ship moved silently through space, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Through the main viewport, Ilara could see a small space station surrounded by 5 vessels of elegant organic design. Analysis, she asked, studying the unfamiliar ships. The vessels appear to be part of something called the Concordiate Alliance, based on their communication protocols, Atlas reported. They do not appear hostile, but are conducting intensive scans of the human outpost. Open communications, standard first contact protocols, Ilara ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a startled alien face. The being had iridescent blue skin, with ridge-like formations along its skull, and wide, pupil-less eyes. This is Captain Ilara Chen of the Earth vessel Defiance, she announced formally. We are responding to a human distress signal from this sector. Identify yourselves and state your intentions. The alien visibly recoiled in shock. Earth vessel. It replied in flawless universal standard, a language developed by humans centuries ago. Impossible. Humans have been absent from galactic affairs for over 3 centuries. I am very much human, Ilara replied evenly. And my question stands. Your intentions. The alien composed itself. I am Administrator Talvek of the Concordiate Alliance Scientific Division. We detected unusual energy patterns from this abandoned outpost and came to investigate. There has been no human activity in known space since the Great Departure. The Great Departure, so that's what they called it. Ilara knew the truth was far more complicated. Our sensors detect the outpost is still active, Ilara said. We will be boarding to investigate the distress signal. Captain, Talvek replied, hesitation evident in his voice. If you truly are human, there is much you should know about how the galaxy has changed. Before Ilara could respond, Atlas interrupted. Captain, additional vessels approaching at high velocity. Configuration unknown, but weapon systems are active and targeting the Concordia ships. The view screen split to show a new group of vessels, angular, predatory craft with hulls that seem to absorb rather than reflect light. They moved with purpose, forming attack patterns. Administrator, Ilara said sharply, are these yours? Talvek's expression shifted to alarm. No, those are scourge vessels. They must have tracked our expedition. You must flee, Captain. They hunt any advanced technology they cannot understand. The scourge vessels opened fire without warning, energy weapons lashing out at the closest Concordia ship. Its shields flared briefly before collapsing, allowing subsequent hits to tear through its hull. Intervene, Ilara ordered without hesitation. Defensive pattern Delta. Protect the Concordia vessels. The Defiance moved with impossible speed, positioning itself between the attackers and their prey. Ancient defense systems came online, projecting a shield bubble that encompassed not just the human vessel, but the Concordia ships as well. The scourge weapons impacted the shield with no visible effect. They're hailing us, Atlas reported. Let's hear it, Ilara replied, straightening her uniform. A harsh, guttural voice filled the bridge. Unknown vessel. You protect technology that belongs to the Scourge now. Surrender or be destroyed. Ilara studied the alien on screen, a reptilian being with armored skin and predatory eyes. This is Captain Chen of the Earth vessel Defiance. Your attack on peaceful vessels is unwarranted. Stand down immediately. The Scourge commander hissed. Earth, the dead world. Your lies do not deceive us. I assure you, Ilara replied coldly, Earth is very much alive. As am I. This is your final warning. The Scourge commander cut the transmission. Immediately, all enemy vessels focused their fire on the Defiance. Their weapons are having no effect on our shields, Atlas reported. Shield strength at 99.8%. Show them a taste, Ilara ordered. Point defense systems only. Across the Defiance's hull, small ports opened. Pulses of blue energy lanced out, precisely striking the weapons emplacements on the nearest Scourge vessel. The surgical strikes disabled the ship's offensive capabilities without destroying it. Captain, Administrator Talvek's voice came through, filled with awe. Your technology, it's just like the legends. The stories said humans possessed defensive systems that made them invulnerable and weapons that could split planets. The legends exaggerate, Ilara replied, though in truth, they weren't far off. A new alert sounded. Captain, Atlas announced, I'm detecting a small transport vessel approaching at maximum speed. It appears to be fleeing from a larger Scourge force. Administrator Talvek, Ilara said, what do you know about this? The administrator's expression grew grim. It must be the refugees. The Scourge have been systematically exterminating or enslaving species across the Outer Rim. Some managed to escape, carrying warnings to the rest of the galaxy. The transport vessel limped into sensor range, its engines failing and hull breached in multiple locations. Behind it, sensors detected a much larger force approaching, a Scourge battle group. We're receiving a transmission from the transport, Atlas reported. The screen revealed a desperate scene. Civilians of various species crowded into the small craft's bridge. A wounded alien leaned toward the camera. This is Vereen of Alos. Our world has fallen to the Scourge. They follow close behind us with their main fleet. The Concordia must be warned. The Scourge have developed new weapons. They've already destroyed 3 major systems. Billions dead. Ilara's jaw tightened. The situation was escalating beyond a simple distress call. Protocol dictated non-interference in galactic affairs. Humanity had withdrawn for good reasons. Their technology, if misused, could devastate entire sectors. Yet as she looked at the desperate faces on the screen and considered the approaching threat, Ilara knew what she had to do. Atlas, initiate combat readiness protocols. Prepare all systems for full engagement. Captain. Atlas cautioned, the withdrawal protocols explicitly forbid military intervention. Ilara stood, her decision made. The withdrawal was to prevent our technology from being misused, not to abandon innocent lives to slaughter. We swore to protect Atlas. That oath doesn't expire. She turned to address both the refugees and the Concordiat. This vessel will provide protection. Administrator Talvek, please coordinate with the refugee ship for immediate evacuation of their wounded. Captain Chen. Talvek replied, his voice filled with uncertainty and hope. If what I'm seeing is true, then humanity's return could change everything. The Scourge have conquered dozens of worlds because no one could stand against them. But your ship, just one ship, is about to demonstrate why humanity withdrew in the first place. Ilara finished grimly. Atlas, activate the beacon. If we're breaking protocols, we might as well do it properly. Deep within the Defiance, a signal began to pulse outward, reaching across vast distances to other hidden installations where humanity's fleet slumbered, waiting for the call to return. The Scourge main fleet would arrive within hours, expecting to find easy prey. Instead, they would face the awakening of humanity's deadliest weapons and learn why the legends of Earth's military might had endured for centuries after their departure. Humanity, the Scourge battle group emerged from hyperspace like a storm front, 50 warships arranged in attack formation, their angular hulls absorbing rather than reflecting the light of nearby stars. At their center, the massive dreadnought Eclipse cast a shadow over its smaller counterparts, its silhouette bristling with weapon emplacements. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Ilara Chen watched the enemy's arrival with calm detachment. Beside her stood Administrator Talvek, his iridescent skin pale with anxiety. 53 vessels, Atlas reported. Their combined firepower exceeds anything currently fielded by the Concordia by a factor of 12. And compared to us, Ilara asked quietly. They pose no significant threat to Defiance's systems, the AI replied. Talvek turned to Ilara, disbelief evident in his wide, pupil-less eyes. Captain, you speak as though your single vessel could withstand their entire fleet. It can, Ilara replied simply. And more. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the Scourge commander, Supreme Hunter Vextar, his reptilian features contorted into what might have been a smile. The dead world sends one ship, he hissed, mandibles clicking. Your sacrifice will be remembered briefly. Ilara remained standing, hands clasped behind her back. This is Captain Chen of Earth Vessel Defiance. Your forces have committed acts of aggression against peaceful civilizations. Stand down and withdraw from this sector immediately. Laughter rumbled from the Scourge commander. We do not stand down. We consume. Your technology will join our collection. Your ship will become our trophy. Then you leave me no choice, Ilara replied. Atlas, combat protocols authorized. Defensive perimeter, full spectrum. The Defiance hummed as systems dormant for centuries fully activated. Across its obsidian hull, patterns of blue light traced complex geometries. Be advised, Ilara continued, addressing the Scourge commander. Earth withdrew from galactic affairs to prevent certain technologies from being misused. What you are about to witness is why. She cut the transmission with a gesture. Administrator, she said to Talvek, I suggest you inform your vessels to maintain their current positions behind Defiance. The field effects can be disruptive to unshielded systems. Before Talvek could respond, the Scourge fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy projectiles streaked toward the solitary human vessel. Instead of impacting, the weapon's fire simply stopped. Suspended in space several kilometers from the Defiance, the energy discharges hung motionless before dissolving into harmless particles. Localized temporal field engaged, Atlas reported. All incoming fire neutralized. Talvek stared in shock. Impossible. You're manipulating time itself. In a limited fashion, Ilara acknowledged. A defensive application only. The Scourge responded by launching fighter craft, hundreds of them swarming toward the Defiance like insects. Point defense grid active, Atlas announced. From the Defiance, threads of golden light extended outward, forming a web-like pattern. Any Scourge fighter that touched these threads simply ceased to exist, its component atoms dispersed harmlessly. Disassembly field at 20% capacity, Atlas reported. Enemy fighters neutralized. On the main viewer, they could see confusion spreading through the Scourge fleet as their attacks proved ineffective. The Dreadnought Eclipse moved forward, its main weapon, a massive spinal-mounted cannon, glowing with gathered energy. They're preparing to fire their primary weapon, Atlas warned. Energy readings suggest it's designed to destabilize matter at the atomic level. Reflective countermeasures, Ilara ordered. The Eclipse fired, its weapon unleashing a blinding beam that struck the Defiance directly. For a moment, the human vessel shimmered. Then the energy beam curved around it, redirected back toward the Scourge fleet. The redirected weapon sliced through 3 Scourge cruisers, cutting them in half before dissipating. Talvek gasped. You didn't just block it, you sent it back at them. Conservation of energy, Ilara replied. A basic principle. The remaining Scourge vessels began to retreat, their formation breaking apart in disarray. They're attempting to withdraw to hyperspace, Atlas reported. Interdiction field, Ilara commanded. Hold them in place. Space rippled around the Scourge fleet as the Defiance projected an energy pattern that disrupted hyperspace access. The enemy vessels were trapped. Open communications to all Scourge vessels, Ilara ordered. When the channel was established, she addressed them directly. Your fleet is immobilized. Your weapons are ineffective. You have one opportunity to surrender. Power down your vessels and prepare to be boarded. After a tense moment, the lights on the Scourge dreadnought dimmed as its systems powered down. One by one, the remaining vessels followed suit. They're surrendering, Talvek whispered in disbelief. One ship against their entire battle group. And they're surrendering. Concordiate vessels may approach to assist with prisoner transfer, Ilara instructed. Atlas, maintain defensive fields until all enemy combatants are secured. As the Concordiate ships moved cautiously forward, Ilara turned to Talvek. Administrator, I need to understand what's happened in our absence. The galaxy has clearly changed. Talvek nodded slowly. After the Great Departure, many believed humans had ascended to another plane of existence. Others thought you'd destroyed yourselves. The power vacuum led to centuries of conflict until the Concordiate formed. We've achieved relative peace among our members, but the Scourge emerged from unknown space 50 years ago. And the human outpost that sent the distress signal? Ilara asked. An automated research station, Talvek explained. We discovered it was programmed to broadcast if it detected certain threat patterns in galactic development. The rise of the Scourge must have triggered it. Ilara nodded thoughtfully. Atlas, access the station's records. I want to know why it activated now. Hours later, Ilara stood in her private quarters reviewing the data. The station had indeed been programmed to monitor galactic development, watching for precisely the kind of predatory expansion the Scourge represented. It was one of many fail-safes established before humanity's withdrawal. The records confirmed what she already knew. Humanity had not ascended or destroyed itself. They had hidden themselves away, sealing most of their territory behind impenetrable barriers, leaving only watchers like herself in stasis should they ever be needed. The reason was clear in the classified files. Humanity's advances in physics had led them to discoveries too dangerous to share. Technologies that could unmake reality itself if misused. The final test of a dimensional manipulation device had nearly caused a cascading failure that would have unraveled the fabric of space-time throughout the galaxy. Horrified by how close they had come to destroying everything, humanity made the decision to withdraw, taking their most dangerous technologies with them beyond a veil where they could continue their research safely. But they had not abandoned their responsibilities. The beacons, the watchers, the hidden fleets, all were insurance against the day when the galaxy might face extinction without them. That day had come. Ilara returned to the bridge where Talvek waited with representatives from the refugee transport. "The signal I sent when we engaged the Scourge will reach other installations within days," she informed them. "Humanity's fleet will begin to awaken." "And then?" asked Vereen, the refugee who had brought news of the Scourge advance. "Then we fulfill the promise we made before we left," Ilara replied. "To return if we were ever truly needed." On the main screen, long-range sensors detected new energy signatures, massive hyperspace disturbances indicating the approach of more Scourge vessels. Not dozens this time, but hundreds. "They're coming in force," Talvek observed grimly. Ilara nodded. "They think numbers will make a difference." "Won't they?" Vereen asked. "No," Ilara replied. "But it doesn't matter. We won't face them alone." Deep within uncharted space, dormant installations were stirring to life. Cryostasis pods opened as humanity's watchers awakened. Ancient warships powered up, their capabilities beyond anything the current galaxy could imagine. Humanity had withdrawn not out of fear or failure, but out of responsibility. They had developed power too great to use carelessly among younger civilizations. Now that power would serve its intended purpose, to protect life against those who would extinguish it. "Administrator Talvek," Ilara said, turning to the Concordiat representative, "it appears your legends about humanity were incomplete. We didn't leave because we were finished with the galaxy." She looked back at the screen, where the first signatures of responding human vessels were appearing at the edges of sensor range. "We left because we weren't ready to be its guardians. But perhaps now we are." The bridge, illuminated as the first of humanity's returning fleet, dropped out of hyperspace beside the Defiance. Massive vessels that dwarfed even the Scourge dreadnought. More followed, each a testament to what humanity had become before they chose to step away from power rather than risk its misuse. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors, but as the guardians they had always meant to be. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.